Well, good evening, everybody. George Bruno here, also known as the Sultan of Silver, out in the Van Gogh room. I had a nice, productive, fruitful day of cutting hair at the salon. Came home, made myself a ribeye because I am going 2 months on the carnivore diet. The weight is just flying off, and I'm slowly reintroducing carbs and vegetables and limited fruit and no sugar back in my diet, and trying to normalize myself. And I wanted to isolate foods and see what's causing me the most problems and what makes me feel the best. And I've just about pinpointed everything that I need to. But tonight, something interesting. I'm going to be sharing a book with you called Solar Storm. One of my followers is an author. And look at this book. It's magnificent. I'm going to read a little excerpt for you. But first, what I need to do is just pour a drink. One of the things I like to do is I take my whiskey and I put it on ice. There's times when I just don't feel like drinking it straight and I don't want it room temperature, and I just kind of mix it around like this. And then I pour it back into the square shot glass. I got hooked on the square shot glass back when I had the big beard. And I could drink out of the corners of it and not have it go through my mustache. So, let me take a little sip. Nice and cool. All right, so here's to you. Let me toast you. I don't have my microphone on tonight, so I'm only getting, you're only getting audio from my phone right now. So let me just take another sip here. Excellent. Let me just put the top back on this little bottle here. And fire up a pipe. This is a Cobbett Shire. It's a long pipe. And tonight I'm puffing Speakeasy in it. So I'm going to put a link for the Cobbett Shire. It's a perfect pipe. Kind of like my Country Gentleman, perfect. But I like the longer stem on this, so it would be called more or less like a mini church warden. So when I'm sitting here, I don't have to like bring my... This is how lazy us men are. We don't have to bring our hand that close to our face or bring our head to the pipe. So basically, when you're smoking a church warden, you're just almost like leaning over, and then you just kind of like swing the pipe over, take a few puffs, swing it away. Whereas if I actually had like a real, like a regular standard sized pipe, I might actually have to lift my elbow off the arm of the chair. Nice. There will be a link for this down below. You get it, you're not going to regret it. Get it and don't regret it. That's kind of like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. So you must get it and not regret it. And tonight I'm I'm smoking Speakeasy. That's a Cornell and Deal. You can get this at thepipenook.com, and I'll put his link down below too. It's a broken flake. Let me just show it to you quick before it gets too dark. Now we're getting to the point in the year where the sun goes down a little bit earlier. It's getting darker earlier. I have the door of the shed open, the oil lamp on. I have several oil lamps, and also just like little battery-powered LED lights that I pull on occasion. Speakeasy Navy blend. It's like a broken flake. Take a look at this. And the smell. How can I put this? If I didn't know any better, I would just like be eating this based upon the way it smells. It's that good. And I don't know if you can buy this in bulk or not. I know Eddie Gray at the Pipe Nook sells this right here. Try this first. Once you like it, then order more tins. And you start getting into the habit of buying 2 or 3 of everything. One you enjoy right away. The others you put away and let them age. It's magnificent. Let me get another puff before I get going on the book here. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's going to be a nice night. It's pouring rain outside. I don't know if you can hear it. The rain is hitting the roof of the shed. It's relaxing. It's cooling off now. I've got my oil lamp. These are chairs that used to be in the salon. I got a chair here and a chair right there. So for anyone who ever joins me, the chairs are at like in the corner. So we're kind of like almost facing each other. It'd be a great place for two friends to smoke and just chat about life. Or because we're men, we don't even have to talk. That's the cool thing. It's great being a man. I wouldn't want to be anything else. So let's talk about Solar Storm by Vincent Keith. I'll put a link for this down below. George, I've enjoyed your YouTube channel quite a bit. I'm not sure how many hours I've spent listening, but it's easily in the dozens. I'm hoping to return the favor with the included book. Almost everyone that's read it, that I've had a chance to talk to, enjoyed it, so I'm hoping you will too. I found you when I was researching pipes and pipe smoking and got hooked on your life discussions and beard advice. I suppose some of it is that we seem to have very similar views, and we both have very white beards. White-bearded guys, I'll tell you a story. I'm walking through the airport. This is back when my beard was like down to here. Not down to here, but about medium-sized. And I'm coming off the plane with my brother, and there was a dude, probably my age, with a big white beard, walking down the airport terminal towards me. And our eyes just like met, like right away, just like boom. He saw me, I saw him. And as we were passing each other in the airport terminal, just looking at each other as we're approaching, I just held up my fist, and he fist bumped me. And we just nodded, and then I kept walking, he kept walking. My brother looks at me and says, "Do you know him?" I said, "Nope." My brother says, "Was it that beard thing?" And I go, "Yep, it was the beard thing." So guys who have white beards it's part of like the white beard club. When I had a black beard, nobody was fist bumping me. Nobody was calling me brother. Nobody was calling me the American Gandalf. Nobody was calling me anything except late. And then the beard turned white right after I got divorced. Boom! Hair and beard just turned white. Go figure. It could be a spurious correlation, though, because I heard that the rooster crowing also makes the sun come up. By the time you get this, I'll have tried my first pipe, although I'm having a tough time figuring out why I'm intrigued by pipes and cigars. Perhaps it's just a willingness to experiment with things that I don't view as foundational to my beliefs, or maybe I'm getting less risk averse. I think smoking a pipe is probably, in the whole arena of smoking, probably the less risky. I don't inhale at all. I just puff. I lightly sip. You know how you sip on a drink? If you're like sipping on a shot glass, that's how I smoke my pipes. My dad smoked a pipe for most of the time that I was growing up. He quit sometime after I got out of college, but I never knew why. I have oddly found memories of the smell of pipe smoke. Perhaps all the anti-smoking indoctrination did a better job on me than I'd thought possible. I suppose it's possible that I'm simply rebelling against common wisdom, which I found to be wrong more often than not. Vincent Keith, let me tell you something. I did everything the way you're supposed to do it. Everything I learned about women, money, and food was wrong. You know what it got me? Divorced, broke, and fat. Type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. Until I jammed on the brakes and did something radically different, then I became successful with women, money, and my health. Something to think about. In any case, I hope you enjoy the book. The enclosed book contains a rather significant display of what I believe, particularly in the areas of personal responsibility. I'm all about that extreme ownership, family, and community, while at the same time I hope it's entertaining. It's gotten pretty good reviews, the primary complaint being that I spent too much time in technical trivia, which I like. It's a valid criticism that I'm applying to the next book. That's from Vincent Keith, and I'll put a link to this book down below. Let me just read you the back of the book real quick. Are you ready for the end of the world? Jack thought he was. He spent years learning to live in a minimalist and sustainable way. He changed careers. He had a plan just in case the worst happened. Unfortunately for Jack, he was far from home when disaster struck. When the end of the world as we know it came. Now he is on foot. With winter coming, Jack and his 2 dogs will need to trek over 750 miles to get home. How do you cope when almost everything you depend on is lost? When everything you've come to rely on stops working? There was no way to predict a solar storm. There was no way to predict its enormous magnitude or the damage that it would do. What do you do when you can't call for help? When transportation stops and the lights go out? How hungry do you have to be to steal or even to kill? What will people do when there is no law? Who can you trust? Jack would most likely run out of food before he got home, even if nothing went wrong. But something had already gone wrong, and it was just the beginning. He had choices to make and no information. Every decision was a trade-off. Would he survive if he chose wrong? Jack was about to find this out. So I started reading this, and there is a thing called a solar flare, and that's kind of like where these flames shoot out of the sun. And a solar flare creates a solar storm, and it causes all kinds of problems with magnetics and electricity and electrical components if it comes too close to Earth. He's driving down the road with his 2 dogs, and there is a solar flare. And everything goes out. Just like that. And it's a story of survival. It's a story of morality. Relative morality. What would you do? And I love stories like this that put me in the place of him. Because I'm automatically thinking, what would I do if that happened to me? It's kind of like when I was watching like The Walking Dead. One of the reasons why I love The Walking Dead and this post-apocalyptic type of genre is I think, what would I do? Would I kill? Would I steal? Who would I trust? Who would I not trust? And that's why I think The Walking Dead was great, because everyone who you think you could trust was actually out to get you, was somehow ending up being your enemy. And when things get rough, who do you trust? I think this is really neat. For my parents, rest in peace. Vincent, thank you for honoring your parents like that, because you will live a long life because you honored them. I believe that to be true. That you need to honor your parents, dead or alive. No matter how imperfect they are. You didn't get a chance to choose your parents, and neither did I. Would I wish they did? Do I wish that they did something different in raising me? Of course. Of course. Probably in the same way that my kids wish that I did things differently. But I honor my parents. A gigantic loop of glowing plasma stretched out from the surface of the sun 3 times the distance from the Earth to the moon. It was broad enough to thread a planet through the eye with room to spare. Plasma danced and gyrated above the chaos of the sun's surface. Fluid and graceful, like a masterpiece of kinetic sculpture below the churning surface, swirling lines of magnetic force held the prominence of glowing plasma, captive to the sun. Inevitably, they crossed paths and connected like the tying of a knot. The crossing of lines severed the loop's connection to the sun, as if tying the knot had been snapped and the strings holding it in place. An explosive surge launched the plasma toward the edge of the solar system and beyond. The beginning of a solar flare. I'll move on. Traveling at a blistering 3,000 miles per second, pushed on by the solar winds, the first CME. And what did he say a CME was? A coronal mass ejection. The first coronal mass ejection reached the Earth. The assault by the highly charged particles of the CME tore the Earth's magnetosphere to shreds. Invisible lines of magnetic force twisted, stretched, and snapped. Colossal fluctuations in the magnetosphere generated massive electrical currents in wires, cables, pipelines, and rail lines. Some of the satellites that had survived the X-ray storm died as a result of tremendous surges of current-melted circuitry and wires. On Earth, the huge fluctuations in electrical current overloaded systems, destroying transmission lines and the transformers that connected the high-voltage, long-distance power grid to local systems. Surges ripped through power grids around the world. Transformers exploded in showers of sparks and smoke. Power lines melted and snapped, igniting fires. Some would die for lack of fuel, others would grow to engulf thousands of acres, and several would even claim cities. The immense electrical currents generated by the geomagnetic storm caused natural gas pipelines to explode, taking production plants with them. Rail lines twisted and buckled, derailing trains, killing thousands. 9 hours proved to be too little time for massive government bureaucracies to respond. Bureaucrats argued about the political cost of shutting down all flights until it was too late. Aircraft dependent on electronics to control their flight failed. Only a few aircraft would recover enough control to land. Most would not, and tens of thousands of passengers in the air died. The resulting explosions and fires killed tens of thousands more. The military aircraft, some hardened against the effects of nuclear war, remained in the skies. And he gives a background of what happens when this solar storm takes place. And then he goes on to describing the main character's experience. Pain lands through Jack's head like an ice pick to his ears, sharp and sudden, the screaming howl of an air raid siren, mixed with fingernails on a blackboard, screeched from the speakers. From the back seat, 2 dogs added their howling to the cacophony, pushing the sound level from painful to ear-shattering. His left hand clenched the steering wheel, his right threatened to crush the coffee mug he was holding. Reeling from the oral assault, Jack let out his own inarticulate howl of agony. His shoulders tensed, his eyes closed in response to the pain in his head. He struggled to open them, fighting the impulse to let go of the wheel and cover his ears. 40 miles per hour on a well-maintained dirt road seemed reasonable moments ago. Now it was way too fast. Jack stepped on the brake and felt it pulsing underfoot, but the anti-lock brake system had its own problems. No matter how hard he pushed the pedal, nothing happened. He gave up on the brakes, and what little focus he could muster went to keeping the truck on the road and out of the trees. 5 seconds after the agonizing sound began, it cut off in a shower of sparks. Smoke flowed through the vents and through the dash. It rose quickly and obscured the windshield. Without warning, the brakes grabbed at the rear wheels as if they had a mind of their own and were determined to do the opposite of what Jack wanted. The rear wheels locked for a second and a half. It was enough to cause the truck to lose grip in the back and skidded sideways onto the gravel. Jack spun the wheel to counter the skid. The coffee mug slipped through his fingers, bounced off the rim of the steering wheel, emptied onto his lap. "Oh shit," Jack said as he pulled the steaming coffee-soaked pants away from his seared skin. The engine bucked and died. The steering wheel jerked hard to the right as the power steering failed. He gave up on the pants and fought to point the truck to the side of the road. The wheel was stiff and unresponsive, and he had to twist hard to move it. Rocks banged against the undercarriage. The thick gravel at the edge of the road grabbed at the tires and twisted the steering wheel in his wet hands. The dogs slid across the back seat, slamming against the door as the truck veered hard to the right. In a final fit of determination, the ABS computer locked all four wheels. Sliding sideways, the truck bumped against a tree and came to an abrupt stop. And the story goes on from there. So I'm going to finish my first few chapters of Solar Storm tonight. I'll put a link for it down below. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm not really hooked on any programs on TV. So this is going to be kind of like my Walking Dead for the next probably 10 days. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like that kind of survivalist kind of thing and moral dilemmas, what would you do if that happened to you? Then I think Solar Storm is going to be enjoyable for you. Fire up a pipe, pour a drink, relax, read a book, watch more videos. You'll be fine. Have a great night.